Hello and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Wednesday, August 29th, 2018, and this is episode 70. My name is Carol and I'm known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry. The show notes for this and every episode can be found on the blog and also in the episode thread in the Ravelry group. If you'd like to get in touch, you can do so via private message on Ravelry, by leaving a comment on YouTube, or by leaving a comment in the group, and I'll do my best to reply in a timely manner, usually within 2 or 3 days. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today on this rainy morning here in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada. No complaints here. We've had a very hot, dry summer with a lot of wildfires burning in British Columbia, and so the rain is definitely welcome. We had some rain over the weekend too, which helped to clear up the smoky skies we'd been living under for the previous 2 weeks, and the smoke was just starting to settle in again yesterday. So hopefully the rain will clear that out again. It's definitely done a number on my respiratory system. It might sound like I have a cold, but I don't. It's just the effects of the smoke. So here's hoping this smoke helps to put out some of those fires. We have one about 20 kilometers away from here, so depending on the weather, it's been funneling the smoke down the valley towards the coast. So let's hope for an inversion that sends the smoke back into the interior, although I really don't wish it on the people who live there. Let's just hope it dissipates altogether. So first off, thanks so much for all of you who got in touch since my last episode. I heard from lots of you, and a lot of you seem to enjoy my road trip recap, so I'm glad that you did. It really did feel a little bit like I was taking you all along with me, so hopefully you had as much fun as I did. I had hoped to record last week, but we've had kind of an eventful last couple of weeks here, which I'll tell you all about. So I did actually try and record on Friday, and the rhythm was just not there, and then my battery died on my camera, and it just seemed to be a sign of, okay, forget it, do it when you're better, in a better space. So hopefully today's episode goes better than Friday's did. So far so good. I've only recorded the intro about 3 times instead of like 33 times, so we're off to a good start. I have a couple of finished projects for you to show you this week, and I have a couple of works in progress. And there's a few things that I'm considering as upcoming projects, and I've done a little bit of reading, and there's been, as I say, lots going on, so I have lots of news for you. So settle in with a beverage of choice. I am actually just going to take a sip of my tea here, wet my throat a little bit before I jump in. So today, the first thing I'm going to show you is actually a project that you've never even seen begun, because I began and finished it since I last saw you, although I did show you the yarn for it. Last podcast I showed you a skein of yarn that my sister Janine had picked out of Mechita Anniversario colorway, and she had chosen the Caramel Frappe shawl by Monica Cerna for me to knit for her, and so I did. And so I'll show you first off what it looks like, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. You can see bright, pretty colors. I'm not sure how the lighting will be. It's only morning, so I don't have the afternoon light coming through this window like I usually do. Plus, as I say, it's raining, so it's kind of gray out there. So hopefully the lighting is okay today. So as you can see, it's kind of a crescent-shaped shawl with a beautiful lace edging. And this is a really interesting construction because you actually knit the lace edging first. So we basically knit like a long, narrow scarf, a strip of lace, and then you picked up along the edge all the way across, and then you did this lateral braid. Can you see? Let's see. Oops, probably shook the camera there, sorry. Can you see this braid here? Looks like the stitches are going sideways. And then you just work a series of short rows and bind off. Work a little bit of garter, and then bind off. So what I thought was a really happy accident, and I don't know if it'll show up really well. I'm going to stand up. Just with the way the yarn pooled on this side of the edging sort of was mainly the blues and pinks, and the bottom part of the edging picked up more of the yellow and green, and so it's almost as though the edging itself has a bit of a stripe to it, which I thought was just really nice. And so as I knit it, I did my best to maintain that by adjusting my tension. If I found that I was knitting a little too tightly and the yellows and stuff were creeping into this part, I would take it back and just loosen it up a bit. And the same is true if I needed to tighten up my tension. So it actually maintained that pretty well across the shawl. So I thought that was really nice. So I think it'll look really cute worn like this. Just I think how she plans to wear it. And that might show off the color a bit better, seeing as it's against a background and a little less airy. So yeah, I think it turned out really nice. It's actually a shawl I would knit again for myself. I don't usually knit patterns twice, but this was just an interesting construction, and I just like the way it works with a variegated yarn. So definitely a winner. I had this shawl in my favorites, which is how some people use their queue. I had earmarked it a long time ago as a possible knit, and so I'm pleased to finally meet it. I finished my Whoville socks using a sock blank from Fiber Nymph Dye Works. It's her Happenstance sock blank with sparkle, and it's the Welcome to Whoville colorway. And I had shown these to you before, and I explained that I had taken the sock blank and basically snipped it more or less in half, halfway through the blue section. And then I began each sock with blue. I wound off the yarn into two center pole balls and knit each sock from the top down, beginning with the blue section, just because I wanted them to both incorporate blue. And because my feet aren't that big, I didn't think if I just knit straight off the sock blank, I didn't think I'd end up with any blue at all in the first sock. So there they are. And you can see that they are not identical, which is not surprising. They are from a sock blank after all, but they do have quite a bit of resemblance to each other, and they definitely look like a pair. So I'll just bring one up a little bit closer. So this, I did just a yarn over short row heel, and just my usual 64 stitches on a 2mm needle, and my usual, I think it's a wedge toe or round toe, I never know which kind this is. I decrease every second row until I have half the original number of stitches left, and then I'll decrease every row for 4 rows. That's my go-to formula for toes. It just seems to work well with my foot. So yeah, there's that one. You can see this one has like a little strip of plain pink in the middle, and part of it makes up the heel. Where this one, the section of pink occurred later on down the foot. But yeah, I'm very happy with those. Happy to have another pair of Christmas socks. You know, I don't really tend to worry about certain socks for holidays. I heard somebody on a podcast the other day mention knitting Halloween socks. And while I do have a couple of pairs of orange and purpley socks that I'll wear around Halloween, just because I didn't knit them specifically for Halloween. But it is kind of fun to have socks to match your holiday. Why not, right? Yeah, so that's what I have finished since I saw you. Now, another thing I've started is the 4th pair of socks from the Handmade Sock Society by Helen Stewart. So these are the Honeybee Dance socks. And I think I had shown you that I was going to use this yarn from Black Cat Custom Yarn. Oh, sorry. And it's their everyday sock in champagne. So I thought that would be rather fitting for a sock about bees and honey. And I actually got quite a bit done. I've finished, as you can see, got all the way past the, I guess it already. I think I started these last week, and I kind of worked on them for pretty solidly for a couple of days, and then went on to other things. But looking forward to getting back to these again. You can see there's like some twisted stitches running down, and then like cable here, and then this lace pattern. And I'll just turn the sock to the side, and you can get a better look at that lace pattern that runs up the front of the foot. There we go. And then the back is just plain stockinette, which is you know, I've for years and years I knit patterned socks that always quite often repeated the front pattern onto the back. But I have to say it's kind of a nice in between kind of thing. I like that I'm knitting a patterned sock for interest, but I like that I have a stretch of stockinette, and then they don't take quite as long, and you don't have to concentrate quite as much. So it's actually quite a nice effect for a sock. And so yeah, that's that. And then one more project. I had actually, when I recorded or attempted to record on Friday, I had just begun this other pair of socks out of Crazy Zauberball. And this is a skein I've had in my stash for many years. It is color 1660, called Flusbett. I'm not German. I don't know if that's how you say it, but it translates to riverbed. So I'm calling these my riverbed socks. Sorry to check my notes. It's been a little while since I wrote them. Anyway, so if you've knit with Crazy Zauberball before, you know it's a succession of different sections, different marled sections that just knit up into random stripes. There is no matching this. So I didn't even try. Unlike the first time I knit with the Zauberball Crazy, I learned the hard way that there is no match. But I ended up finishing the first sock, and I am knitting these for my brother-in-law Ed for his birthday present in November. So I started from the top down, 72 stitches. And I decided to do an afterthought heel so that I could maintain this striping, gradual striping on the front. I was afraid I'd end up with some abrupt change of color on the front if I did a short row heel. So they're kind of fun. And I did the afterthought heel only about an inch after I'd passed the point of joining for the heel. I like to do that, and then I get a really accurate measure from the heel to the toe. And I use, I don't even know where I try to think. I think maybe the first time I did an afterthought heel, I think I used the tutorial by, I think it's by the Knit Girls. I think it was Leslie that does a tutorial on it. And I've kind of tweaked it over the years to suit myself. And I do something similar to what Susan B. Anderson does on her, I'm going to forget that name. I just looked at it too. Smooth Operator socks. She will... I for a long time ago, I avoided, like when you knit a short row heel, you're basically knitting a toe in the heel. And a long time ago, I started eliminating the one stitch on either side of center here, so that the decreases would just line up side by side. And Susan B. Anderson does a similar thing, but she knits both her sets of stitches together where I will do an SSK and a knit two together to have the stitches leaning towards one another. And then I just picked up an extra stitch on either side of each side of the heel to close that little gap you can sometimes find. And it worked pretty well. I think in one case I wove part of the end through just to close it up a little better, but pretty happy with those. And then I have this one. Actually, I cast it on yesterday and had a fair bit of time to knit, so number 2 is well on its way. And that's good. I'm going to need some car knitting this weekend, so I will work on these. And depending how much I get done, I might actually need to grab another pair of sock yarn, or another skein of sock yarn, and have another skein on hand for more stockinette socks. But we'll see. We'll see what happens between now and then. So yeah, so that's all my projects. As for up and coming, tomorrow is the release date for the 4th shawl in the Shawl Society 3 by Helen Stewart, which is based on The Secret Garden. So this shawl takes 3 skeins of yarn, and the sort of sneak peek we've had are 3 basically solid shades of yarn. And it's, I think I read something, it sounds like it's maybe more of a graphic block shawl. I don't know that for sure. There's just something in my head that I feel like I read that somewhere. So I'm going to wait to see the pattern before I even attempt to choose yarn for it. But I'm looking forward to that. I'm still, well, I haven't touched my number 2 shawl, which is Ivy Over the Door, since I got back from holidays, but I am hoping to get back to that. And I'm still trying to decide what to do with the end of my wick shawl. So I have not touched that since last time I recorded either. So I kind of hate having those on the go while preparing for the number 4 shawl, but that's just the way it is. And what was I going to say? I don't know. It's gone. And I really shouldn't be thinking about other things to cast on, except that the Sweet Georgia Yarns Mystery Shawl Knit Along began yesterday, and I don't know what it looks like. Obviously, it's a mystery. I mean, what I mean is I'm not really sure what shape it's going to be. It takes 3 skeins of yarn. I'm very tempted to jump in since it only started yesterday. And I do have several combinations of Sweet Georgia yarn that would work for it. So I'm strongly considering that. And then just before I recorded, I was online and I had a message from Barbara, who's quilter. She's in our group, and she sent me a link to a sock knit along that she said she thought I would be, she thought I would like it. She reminded her of me. And it's called Rosen Socken by Maja, M-A-J-A, Maja Carlson. That translates to Bed of Roses. And what you can see is so far is blue and white yarn. It looks like it's been inspired by the blue and white china. It's beautiful. And it definitely would match, not that my socks have to match my kitchen, but I have certain things in my kitchen in that blue and white china kind of design. I have like wallpaper border, and I have some plates hanging up that have that feel to it. So definitely it is right up my alley as far as aesthetics go. Whether or not I want to take on another pair of socks and a colorwork, it's colorwork, did I mention that? Colorwork pair of socks, but I am sorely tempted. So don't be surprised if you tune in next time and find them on my needles. So as you can tell, I've got lots of kind of planning going on in my head for knitting. I also have projects that I really need to get back to that I haven't talked about for a while because they're sitting in bags not being worked on. I guess all I can say is I really enjoy this kind of time where you have lots of inspiration, lots of things you want to work on. It sure beats the opposite when you kind of go into a knitting slump and you don't know what to work on at all. So in a way, it's quite exciting to have some projects in mind, and we're actually going to be going away this coming weekend, and it should just be a fairly relaxing weekend. So it's fun to sort of think about which projects I might take and work on. But I'll get to that later too. What am I reading? Not a lot this past week anyway, but I did, I think I mentioned this the last time I podcasted. I had picked up this book, The Mystery of Sacagawea, by Harold P. Howard, and I did finish it. As I mentioned last episode, part of our road trip took us through areas where the Lewis and Clark expedition had traveled through, either on their way west or their way east, their return trip east. I've had a great interest in that expedition and Sacagawea for many, many years. I've read a lot of fiction and nonfiction, so it was just interesting to get another take. I hadn't realized when I bought this book that it had been published quite a while ago. I think I wrote it down last week's notes. Originally in 1969. So I believe there's been some research and scholarship done since then. But it was interesting. He includes two theories of when she died, and discusses the evidence for each. I'm sure everyone has their own opinion. It seems to me more more likely that she passed away earlier rather than later. If I remember right, I think the one theory is that she passed away at Fort Manuel when she was in, I think, her late 20s. And it's recorded by some people at the time, except that she's not named by name. That's one of the stumbling blocks. But then later on, William Clark, who had become a guardian of her son, wrote down a list of names of people who were on the expedition and had marked her as having passed away. Now, some people will point out to the fact that someone else that he had marked as dead was still, in fact, living, but he'd lost touch with him. So there's speculation, well, maybe she wasn't dead either. Hard to say. There's the other theory, is that she lived out a very long life and passed away I think in Wyoming on an Indian reserve. Who knows? But it's interesting to read both accounts and try and decide for yourself. In any case, I think she's a fascinating historical character, and have always enjoyed reading about her. As for what else I'm reading, I picked up my well-worn copy of On the Banks of Plum Creek, and I'm reading it again for probably the 100 millionth time. As I say, it's well-worn. This is the original book from when I was a kid. I have this, Janine and I sent away, I think we were in our probably early to mid-teens, and sent away for various Laura Ingalls Wilder items from the Memorial Society in Mansfield, Missouri, where she lived out her life. And one of the things that I got were book plates. So that's there with my teenage writing and maiden name. And I guess I could replace these, but why? I like a well-read book. So it's been fun to read this again with fresh eyes, since I was right there at the site of this dugout when Laura talks about looking across the creek towards where the fields are that her father's working in. I can visualize that direction and approximately how far away it would be. In the book, they've now since moved into their wooden house, their frame house, and I don't know if it sat on the site of the house that's currently on this property, but it was on the other side of the creek as the present house is. So I can kind of picture where it might have been. And when she talks about going to town, I can visualize the road, what direction it would take, approximately how far away it is from Walnut Grove. So it's just really cool to be reading this, having visited the site. It's just bringing a new dimension to the book. So I've been enjoying that. What I'm thinking about doing, I have the Pioneer Girl, the original manuscript that all the Little House on Prairie books were based on. It's Laura's original manuscript. And then she couldn't sell it. And so she began to write children's stories, or, the series, taking elements out of her original manuscript. So I'm tempted to now read this and then go read that section of Pioneer Girl and then read the next one and do the same and kind of work my way back and forth through the books. Again, just to get a better understanding, since I've now been here and been also in De Smet, where the remaining books in the series take place. So yeah, it's just been kind of fun to do that. I'm just gonna take another sip here. I can feel my throat's kind of hoarse. So I guess it's just over 2 weeks since I last recorded, and in that time, as I alluded to, there's been lots going on. So first off, while I was away, the soffit for our for the ceiling of our deck, we have if you've been watching, we've been building a new deck this year, kind of ground level, and we have an existing deck comes off our second story. So part of the new deck sits under that. So we had ordered soffitting for the ceiling for that part. That's probably a long, convoluted way of saying that, sorry. So by the time I left, it had not arrived yet, and we had lots of hassle with delays and such, and then trying to arrange delivery while I was gone, because my name and contact info was on the original delivery, and it seemed to be a real hassle trying to get that changed over so that they would contact my husband, because it had to be signed for. Long story short, it came while I was away, and the bulk of it got installed while I was gone. And then the week after I got home, the rest got put up, and the last sort of finishing touches on the deck got done, which involved covering up the kind of boxing in the existing posts just to make them look prettier and to hide the wiring for the sockets that were going to be mounted on the posts. And so once that was done, I gave them a couple of coats of paint. So it looked all nice and fresh. And then the electrician came in and hooked up our outlets, and then also the installed a ceiling light and fan for under the deck. So when it's warm, we can turn a fan on and it creates a nice breeze. And I can speak to its, what's the word? Don't know. Can't know words today. It works anyway, because I sat there yesterday and had my lunch and had the fan going, and it just felt lovely. So also, before I'd left, we'd had our landscaper had come and sort of talked about what we wanted, and it's sprayed some lines on the ground to where different beds and trees and things would be. And then he was supposed to have had an estimate done up for us before I left, which didn't happen. And so it wasn't until I got home that Cam and I really looked it over and decided, yes, that we would go ahead with it. As you might imagine, re-landscaping a big backyard is not a inexpensive undertaking, and so we really wanted to be sure that that we could A, afford it, and B, felt it was what we wanted done this year. So once I got home, we did decide to go ahead with it, and then we were expecting work to start. We were told the end of August or early September. Well, then late, I guess about 2 weeks ago, we got told that he was starting the next Tuesday or Wednesday. And he came over the Saturday to kind of firm up details, confirm everything that they were doing. And then he let it drop that they were starting Monday. So last Monday, the landscapers showed up. They rototilled our whole yard and then proceeded to, lots of things. Plant a cedar hedge around the perimeter, put in a pad for the shed, put in a crushed gravel bed for where we are going to do a patio and a sidewalk and a little step down from the deck next year. We just can't afford to do that step this year, but the crushed gravel is now in place as a base for that. It brought in a whole bunch of dirt to level the yard and planted some trees. We have trees now and some shrubs, laid out garden beds, put bark mulch, just all those things. And then we had planned to go with just grass seed, again, cost. But because we had expected to have a drain put in to deal with our water issue, but he feels that by bringing in the fill and getting rid of the dip in the middle of our yard that we shouldn't have those issues anymore. Knock wood, hope that's true. In any case, because we saved some money there, we decided to go with sod. So we got an instant lawn. It came in just on Monday and laid the turf down and boom. Instant backyard in 6 days work, if you can believe it. I still can't believe that it only took that long. And then we had ordered a shed for the back corner, and it arrived over the weekend. So we've spent the last 3 nights putting that together and finished it. Last night, Cam and Matt were doing the last bit with flashlights because we were always playing beat the clock. Of course, it's getting dark earlier and earlier all the time. So we've been eating dinner fashionably late every night, and in an effort to put as much work in during daylight hours as we could on the shed. So the last step got done last night at about almost 8:30. So the shed's up. And the only thing we're finding is that where the doors are located, because where the grass is hitting it, they're hard to open. We're kind of peeling back the sod. So we have to figure out a solution for that. We might cut that sod out and put gravel in that area just to have more of a free swinging area. That's to be determined. We'll kind of assess it and decide what we have to do, but it's not quite right. We'll have to tweak that. And then one of our great acquisitions, as of about 2 weeks ago, I guess, we really wanted a fire table for this year to have out on the deck for the cooler evenings. So we did find one on clearance. That's always a bonus when you get a good price. And so we've been enjoying sitting out in the evenings with a propane fire going. And once the main yard work was all done, everything but the grass, we were able to put together the patio furniture we had bought earlier this year. It's been stacked in boxes in a spare bedroom. So we put all that together, and now that's out on the deck too. So everything's coming together. There are still things to be done. We have a couple gardens that we haven't even planted yet because I'm not sure what I want to put in them. We're going to have some privacy screens put up on either end of the deck, just between us and the neighbors, just to give both of us more privacy. And then, as I said, next year we'll figure out what we want to do for for sidewalks and patio, whether we do pavers or stamped concrete. We're not really sure, but that's a problem for another day. So the cooler weather actually arrived just in time because it had been very hot, and the ground was very hard when they were digging. That's for sure. I felt bad for these. The landscaper had three young guys working with them, and they're the ones who were doing all the digging. And I felt one little guy. I should call him that. That sounds condescending. One was younger than the rest. He's just he's probably about 15 years old, and being the young guy, he seemed to get a lot of the, not as good at jobs. I watched him digging holes sometimes, and I just felt for him because the ground was really hard. So it was perfect because we got the everything but the grass in on Friday, and then the rain came last Saturday and Sunday. We had rain. So that was really good. And then they put the grass in Monday. It cleared up to do that. And the next day was nice. And here we are on Wednesday and it's raining again. So besides the watering that we're doing ourselves, it's nice to have some cooler weather and some rain falling. So our grass and new trees and plants should get a good foundation. So yeah, it just feels like boom, instant backyard. We've been talking about doing this for a long time, making the most out of our space, and this was the year we could finally have the time and the money to do it. And so we're really excited to have a really nice spot to sit, and we've been enjoying it as much as we can. So I'm just gonna look if I had anything else written down. No, I guess that's about it. So as I mentioned, we're going away this coming weekend. We're just going to go up to our family cabin. We'll pick up my mom in town, and I think it's just going to be the three of us there. Stay out at the cabin for the long weekend. And Cameron's going up the following weekend for a work weekend with a couple of my brothers-in-law. But this coming weekend is just a holiday weekend, and we haven't really had that together this summer at all. So I'm looking forward to just some downtime. We should get some knitting done. I'm sure we'll play cards. My mom really enjoys playing cards, and I'm sure we'll talk. And we have a couple of dinners planned, and yeah, it should just be a really nice weekend. It's cooler up there. My mom has just spent some time out there this last week with some relatives, and she said the weather's changed. It's quite a bit cooler. So we'll dress for it, and we got heaters in the cabin, and I don't even care what the weather's like. It'll just be kind of nice to get away from all of this. It's been a great seeing everything come together, but there's been just a lot going on, so I'm looking forward to that little step away from being home, and then be able to come back to it more refreshed, I guess. We did have a nice day last Saturday. Cameron had won some passes for golf during a bonspiel last winter, and so we decided to use them before they expired. So we went up on Saturday to a place that's a couple hours away from us. It's actually a course that we've played quite a bit and enjoy. So we went there and golfed. And it was raining, which we weren't expecting. The weather forecast for there said a mix of sun and cloud. And as it turned out, we had some liquid sunshine. But that was okay. It wasn't really too cold. It was cooler for sure, and I was chilled when I first got there, but once we started playing, it warmed up, and then as we played, the rain stopped and sun came out a little bit. Had some good holes and some bad holes. I did par one, which I was thrilled. It's my favorite hole. You tee off from way up on high, and then I bogeyed another similar kind of hole like that, and the rest I just actually didn't really keep score. I just played. It's a lot less demoralizing. And anyway, we had a nice time together, stopped for dinner about midway on the way home, and just had a nice day together, because then Sunday was busy with lots of errands and starting to put the shed together. So it was good to have that break in there. So yeah, my son moves out this weekend also. He, for those who may not know, he's just bought a townhouse and his possession date is September 1st. So he's really looking forward to packing everything up and moving there. He's been living back with us since February. The place he was living in got sold, and so my nephew and he were renting the basement suite in this house, so they had to leave, and we offered him to come home and save up some more money towards buying a place because he'd had a good chunk already. So that allowed him to save up some more and have lots of time to look without pressure of having to find it by a certain date. So I'm sure, I know he's looking forward to having his own place and space, and we're looking forward to having our own space back. While he's been easy to live with, I know for both sides it's not the ideal. You know, you want your own place. So we're very, very happy for him, excited for him. His brother and his girlfriend are going to help him move, and a friend. So we didn't feel too bad leaving because he doesn't have tons and tons of stuff to be moved, so he's got lots of help. And then we get our garage back. Our garage has been full of his things since February, and particularly with all this yard work and everything going on, there have been times we would have liked to have had that space to store things, and we'll have that back again. And maybe between having the garage and the new shed, maybe we can actually use our garage as a garage again, which we have not done for many, many, many years. It's become a storage area, so you never know. That would be nice. So as I said last time, I don't see any reason why I can't record in a week's time, but you never know what life throws at you. So hopefully I will talk to you again in about a week or so. If not, you'll see me when you see me. Thanks again, as always, for your reaching out to me. I always enjoy hearing from all of you, and it was nice to hear from some new people this week. So thank you and welcome. I hope you enjoy the podcast, and we'll come back again and again. So yeah, take care wherever you are. I know it's kind of that transition time for everyone with seasons, transitioning into fall here and spring in the southern hemisphere. So with those, usually it signals some cooler temperatures, and that usually means good knitting weather. So enjoy. Hope you get lots done, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye now.